Thanks, Lana. Well, good morning, everybody. It's finally here. This Maker Faire has been 9 months in the planning, and we are not only the only Maker Faire here in Australia this year, we are still the largest in the Southern Hemisphere, which is something we're incredibly proud of. But what I want to talk to you today about is what is the Maker movement, because Maker is not a phrase that's really well recognised or understood here in Australia. It is overseas. And we believe it's really important, and we believe it's really important for a number of different reasons. It's not working. So the Maker movement allows children and adults alike to develop key skills. Those key skills are creativity, innovation, invention, curiosity, and problem-solving skills. Makers are people, whether they work with traditional tools, spinning and weaving, or whether they work with Arduino, robotics, 3D printing, and laser cutting, who are problem solvers. And these are the kinds of skills that we find as we move further into the 21st century are not just skills that you need in the Maker movement, but they're skills that you need in commercial environments as well. And I'm not just talking about selling things, I'm talking about office environments. And I know that because I work in an office myself. So these are really important skills. So let me talk to you about why you should care about them. The world is changing. The Maker movement is global. As I said, Maker is not a word that's really well understood here in Australia. And one of the things we want to do at South Australian Makers is change that. So I am part of the team that organise Maker Faire Adelaide, and I am also the treasurer for South Australian Makers. And we are a not-for-profit, totally volunteer-run organisation that exists solely for the promotion and support of makers and making in South Australia. As I said, the skills that we need in today's environment and today's work environment are changing. Automation is taking away those kind of jobs that can be done just by screen scraping or entering information into a computer. They're all being automated now through intelligent automation. So the kind of skills that you're going to need, as well as being more humanistic skills like empathy, are going to be problem solving. And the Maker movement helps people develop that at early ages, but also through their adult life as well. I don't believe education is really keeping up with this, and this is something that we can help with maker spaces, as well as events like Maker Faire, for people to come and show what they do, to come and tell people what they do, and to inspire people. But it's also important for our people who are perhaps being displaced by some of this automation. They're losing their jobs, and we know that very well here in South Australia as a result of Holden closing, for example. They can share those skills with other people through makerspaces. They can actually learn new skills through makerspaces as well. And what we know, and you will find this when you walk out into the main assembly building here today, is that this is a community thing. Yes, absolutely, tertiary education has its place. Yes, absolutely, corporate environment has its place as well. But the community is self-organising, and what we need is your help to make that happen faster. What we also know is that creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship leads to jobs. So the creativity of having artists, and you'll see many artists today, working with technology but also with traditional tools, leads to that innovation, leads to entrepreneurship, and then leads to jobs. And we know, those of you who are from South Australia, we have a desperate need of that. But here in South Australia, we have a great history of makers. You might not know it as makers, but they are. So Hills Hoist is a perfect example. That innovation was created here in South Australia. The stump jump plough is another example. And did you know that the first house to be electric was here in Whyalla? So the history that we have here in South Australia is amazing. The talent that we have here in South Australia is amazing. You'll see that today as you walk through the main assembly building. But what we need to talk about is our future. The future for South Australia, as we know, is not large manufacturing. It's not bashing steel. It's things like what you can see on the screen right now. This is a 3D holographic image, which is essentially printed light. This was made by two people working in a shed, doing making sessions in the evenings because they wanted to do it. And they were inspired by the original Star Wars movies, that great little projected image of Princess Leia from R2-D2. That technology didn't exist in the 70s when those films were made. And they said, you know what, we'll invent that. That's the maker movement. But what these guys did was they found that they had some skills gaps, and they weren't able to get those by going to a university or going to a corporate. They were going to charge them money for those. So what they did is they came to Adelaide Fab Lab. And the Fab Lab is one of the projects that we have for South Australian makers. It's a digital fabrication laboratory which provides low or no cost access to 3D printing and laser cutters. But what the guys at Voxon found was that their skill gaps were filled by our community. They're now selling these commercially. They've shown them to NASA. They're selling them in the States. So this is a perfect example of what I was just talking about how creativity, innovation, and making leads to jobs. So the future is about precision manufacturing. It's about being curious and problem solving. So let me tell you what's coming next year. South Australian makers are delighted to announce that we're going to be expanding the Fab Lab into a full-blown makerspace. Now you might say, what are you talking about? What does that mean? That means that the digital manufacturing, low cost and no cost access that we provide to 3D printing and laser cutting right now is going to be expanded to everything from spinning and weaving all the way through, we hope, to welding. Now what this means is that people can share their skills, they can learn new skills, they can be creative, they can be innovative, and maybe they can test out things like welding before they sign themselves up to a big HECS debt and go and learn and get a course at TAFE. We see this as a pathway for people to come into tertiary education, but it's like a try before you buy. But you get access to that community, you can do workshops, you can broaden your skills, and you can learn more. But we need your help, because as I said at the beginning, we're a volunteer, not-for-profit run organisation, so we need volunteers. We need people like you to be advocates for us. We need you to be shouting from the rooftops that you believe that this is important. And what I would ask you to do as you make your way around the Maker Fair today is go to stand 90, because that is where there is a big geodesic cardboard dome, and that's where our Makerspace volunteers are going to be talking to you about what our plans are and how you can help. It's really important. This is the community self-organising. We don't have the big voices of corporate world. We don't have the big voices of universities. We need your help, because what we want to do is bring people up from that grassroots making level, send them to university, send them to TAFE, help them get those apprenticeships so that they can become the next big thing from South Australia. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, South Australian makers have three main projects. Maker Fair, you may have noticed, is where you are today. We're very, very proud, as I said, that we are the largest Maker Fair in the Southern Hemisphere. And this year, we're the only Maker Fair in Australia at all. Fab Lab on the left-hand side is open 2 days a week in the St Paul's Creative Centre in the city. Fab Lab will become the anchor tenant for the Makerspace when we get that up and running in 2018. And the Makerspace, as I said, will offer a much broader range. However, we will still be volunteer run. So the more people we can get in, the more interest that we can get, the more we can run workshops that people will be interested in, and the more we can generate revenue. And then the more we can open, because we can start paying people rather than relying on volunteers to provide their skills and experience. They want to do it, but unfortunately, volunteering doesn't pay the bills. So here you are at Maker Fair Adelaide. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here. You're going to have a fabulous day. We've got an amazing range of speakers for you to listen to. You could spend the whole day in here and never go outside. I don't recommend that you do, but definitely go outside and understand what's happening in the maker community. It's a great pleasure to have you here. Go explore, go create, go and be makers. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Katrina. That was amazing. Hi, everyone. Thanks for everyone filtering in. My name is Lana. I'm helping out as, I guess, MC here in the speakers program. We have a little bit of time before our next speaker, unless you're ready. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Katrina?
Don't all rush at once.
What days make the lab thing open in the city?
Yeah, that's open 2 days a week. It's open on a Thursday from 3 in the afternoon until 8 in the evening. And on a Saturday, it's open from 11 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. You jump on the website, because we're all volunteer run and a lot of our volunteers are here. We are closed for the next couple of weeks as we all recover a little bit. But those are our normal opening hours. But jump on the website, you can find out for the next few weeks when we're open. If you have any questions of me or anybody else during the day, we're all in red t-shirts. We're here to make your day amazing. Any feedback, anything you can offer is very gratefully received. We do this for you guys. We do this